Yo, Woden's Day. In the United States of America, we have light vehicle sales, autos and trucks, seasonally adjusted annual rate. And it's back up to 15 million. Absolutely incredible pullback there by the American cars and truck sales people. It got down to under 10 and now it's back to 15. Excellent effort. I hope there's no shenanigans going on like there was, I talked of in Europe yesterday. But let's go to the Financial Times and talk about American cars. US shift to small cars seen as permanent. Surging demand for small cars in the US marks the start of a permanent change in America's taste in vehicles. Two of the US motor industry's most senior executives have said after sales of the smallest car class rose 70% in a year. And I think that is it. The car fleet apparently was getting very old in the United States. There are lots of good deals going on to lease a car. Is that what you call it, where you only pay per month for the car? And people are downsizing to smaller, more economical cars, probably making their overall monthly payment, car and fuel-wise, smaller than it was, and also having a new car. It's a trend that is a friend because it's in to stay. Right, this one from the EIA has been ringed by somebody. I forget who, to tell the truth, and I don't even know even if it's the link. You can have a look and check. US annual energy expenditure share of gross domestic product. It's a bit of a confusing one, this, but you can see from 1985, from where the chart starts, to the year 2000, that blue line is trending downwards. And that basically means that the cost of energy and its value going into GDP was coming down and down. It took less cost of energy to make more GDP. Basically, energy was getting cheaper. That's the easiest way of saying it, but it's slightly more complicated than that. But over those that 15-year period, 1985 to 2000, energy was getting consistently cheaper. From the year 2000 up to 2012, it's ziggy-zaggy, especially because of that 2008 surge. But the general trend is that energy is getting more expensive. And that is a big, big point. And it's been ringed here with the interesting policy careers built here. In other words, the people in charge are used in their minds to the fact, well, energy is just getting cheaper and cheaper, and probably haven't registered that since they've been in power or moved to positions of power, that old paradigm isn't working anymore because energy is getting consistently more and more expensive. Right. This has been done by Financial Times Alphaville. I think Isabella Kaminska did it. And this is about QE because people still do not understand it. So read the entire article to get more of an understanding of quantitative easing. She's done this Rubik's Cube type thing. At the top is where the situation was. And if you read the article, the different colours actually mean different things. Actually, it's in the next slide a bit what the colours mean. That was the shape of things, 2% inflation, equilibrium, and that was the economy as was. With quantitative easing at the bottom, what we have on the right, the cubes have changed. The central bank's balance sheet has grown. But the actual Rubik's Cube of the economy on the left has not grown. Its coloured blocks have changed from what in the article, because it's meant to explain it to simple people, it's changed from one colour, which was tomorrow's money, into a different colour, which is today's money. But the size has not changed. The size of the central bank's balance sheet, cube, is not a cube anymore. It's a rhomboid schizoid. That's changed. But the size of the economy cube is the same. Its colours of the smaller cubes within the cubes has changed. Yeah. And over on the right, if it was money printing, as in unsterilised printing of money, The central bank money would be coming from the central bank. It's not changing. And the central bank money would be being stacked into the economy. And that's what it'd look like. And that's not how it looks. It looks as a same size cube as it was before, just slightly different colours. And then there it's got the tomorrow's money, today's money, gold, private tomorrow money, and read the article to get the whole skinny on that. But it's a nicely put together article. Okay. Now, what I've done here, I've stolen an entire Financial Times article, which I never do because apparently it's naughty for copyright, but I think we'll be all right. I haven't brought the headline in, but we'll get the whole idea of what I'm talking about or what they're talking about because I'm going to read the whole article. This is clearly unsustainable, Greece, yet Greece is in a bind. It has... I have missed one out. Let's see if I can go to it now. Okay, the one I've missed out, I'll put it in so it won't be missed out. ECB is tangled in its own logic on Greece. Actually, I won't put it in, so I won't have then stolen the entire article. I'll just read it to you from the screen. Greek finances are so bad that the budget is a misnomer. Still, the finance minister this week forecast a 6th year in a row of recession, longer than the drop in the US output during the Great Depression. As the economy contracts, its debt is predicted to grow to 180% of GDP next year. 180%. It's just going up and up. Right, now I can go back to my snips. This is clearly unsustainable. Voila. Yet Greece is in a bind. It has 5 groups of creditors and will find it hard to default on any of them. At least 2, the European Central Bank, and other Eurozone governments must be forced into debt restructuring if Greece is to stay in the euro. Take the creditors in order. Greece wiped out 4/5 of private sector debt in March, defaulting again on the 60 billion or so of new bonds, new private bonds, would be legally tough as they are governed by English law, not old bonds Greek law. I went into that at the time, that Greek law bonds were just a blank slate and they could do anything they like with them. The new bonds have been released under English law with lots of things written on the back, lots of clauses. Private bondholders are gaining confidence that the pain of inevitable default will fall on others, with the new bonds yields close to where they first traded in March. The 10-year yield of 19.2 is down from 30%. So, who's holding the others? The International Monetary Fund, 22 billion, they're unassailable. It always gets paid. The 66 billion or so which Commerzbank estimates is owed to Greek banks and money market investors must be repaid. The alternative is financial collapse in Greece. You know, that you default on, you're just stabbing yourself in the stomach if you default to your own people. The remainder is 126 billion owed to the Eurozone governments and their rescue fund, and 55 billion face value of bonds held by the ECB, European Central Bank. Default would be politically difficult, but another delay to repayment looks inevitable. The ECB is tangled in its own logic. After saying it would be treated equally with private bondholders if a country it helps under its latest rescue plan were to default, that's the new stuff for Spain, don't worry about it. Yet it continues to insist it cannot accept a similar default in Greece because that would amount to illegal, going to what the Bundesbank actually reads on bits of paper set up for how the ECB should function, would to be illegal monetary financing of a government. It cannot have it both ways. In other words, if it lets default on Greece default on its bonds that it's holding, that's the equivalent, whether they're really accepting it or not, but it's the equivalent to saying, we'll buy your bonds off you and now just default on them, no worries. You know, And that would be obviously just helping Greece, which it's not allowed to do. So buying them in all good faith and really fighting that Greece doesn't default on them, but eventually does default on them, is the same. It's just optics, as they say. The first comment in from the White Rabbit is ECB needs to print 55 billion euros and take the mark-to-market hit immediately. What's the big deal? Germany doesn't like it. If Germany doesn't like it, they can do everyone a favour and leave the euro. And that's what it is all now boiling down to. That's what it's boiling down to. And Greece will, Germany will learn to love it. Pretend to love it. Pretend to accept it. It's the only option. The German taxpayers can pay, or the European Central Bank can pay, with Germany complicit. What's it going to be? It's going to be printed up money. Is that going to be inflationary? You tell me. Bye.